Hey, this is Chris Anderson, and I'm here with my friend Rick Beyer, and we are here to test a new idea for History Happy Hour. One of the things that we've come across through all the years is all of these hours and hours of film footage of actual historical events, and Rick and I both love to watch these and comment on them, and so we thought, well, maybe our comments would be of some interest to you.
So it's sort of like History Science Theater
Exactly.
3000.
Yes.
Although that's not the name. We don't know what the name is. So
In case any lawyers are watching, that's not the name of this.
That's not the name of it.
And we haven't come up with a good name yet, but the idea is that we will dig into musty, dusty archives all over the world, find non-copyrighted film footage, and
we're going to clear it with our vast legal staff.
That's right. Once the legal department's clear it, we'll play it, and we'll add some commentary to it that hopefully you will find interesting or at least humorous.
Yeah, or something. And the first one, we'll just say before I start playing it, it comes from the National Archives, and as many of this footage might do because it's free and public domain, and it is from the 1942 Dieppe raid conducted by Canadian troops against the Nazis on the shore of France. So here we go. And that's its official number, Chris. Wow, so if you want to look up the footage yourself.
Quick, let me write that down. Done.
So this is, what do you think, German newsreel footage?
Yeah, and I think right from the get-go, one of the things that's so interesting about this is 1942, so this is the time when Hitler is making a big push to get the Vichy French on side with his war in Russia. He's trying to get Vichy France to actively support the Russian involvement.
So it's propaganda for that.
Yeah, so it's propaganda, and he's trying to sell this as the French and the Germans together repelling...
Together we repel the British.
The Anglo-Saxons, as they would call them.
I think there's a lot of archive, like sort of generic footage in this part, but there's also, like right here, some real specific
stuff. Yep.
Footage from Dieppe, which is pretty cool.
And it's also interesting that I think a lot of this footage later gets used when they talk about Normandy and battles later, but a lot of it originates with this film footage.
Filmmakers steal whatever they can.
Yeah, and I mean the Germans immediately saw the propaganda value of this, and they had film crews down here almost immediately to film all this. And here
it's pretty extraordinary. I mean, to see the prisoners, to see the carnage left on the beach, the Churchill tanks, it's amazing.
Well, I mean, I think we need to. This footage really brings it home for me, just how terrible it was. In most histories of the war, we just kind of pass over the raid pretty quickly, but over half the invasion force.
I love this.
Young men.
The noble German soldier gives a drink to the Canadian or British, who's on an LCA, by the way. That's a landing craft armored.
And you also can see here, you'll see periodically on the beach, one of the great features of the raid here and why it failed are the particular stones on the beaches there at Dieppe. You can see there. And again, a lot of the
tanks couldn't get over.
Couldn't get up, and they couldn't support the infantry, and so these poor kids were just sitting ducks.
And you do see some footage here. I mean, it didn't all happen on the beach. A lot of it did, but there is some move inland that happens. Not very far, but just a little bit.
And of course, the other thing that's very rarely talked about is how the French civilians suffered. Their community was destroyed because just the nature of a raid, they don't know what's going to happen, so the civilians aren't evacuated. So they're very much a part of this fight too. So I think the Germans are making a real attempt to tell the French like it was the Canadians, that was the allies that did this to your community.
The evil allies here. We neither of us speak French, so we're not exactly sure what he's saying. And look, there is Dieppe. You hardly ever see the whole thing. It's a beautiful coastal resort that this is all washed up on the shore of.
And you can see this is the first deployment of those Churchill tanks.
Tanks.
Didn't have a very auspicious debut.
I think about 30 of them got ashore, and none came back.
Right, none came back. But 29 of them got as far as the beach and didn't get up on the seawall, and the rest were knocked down.
And then you just...
I think that's a very telling shot. They deliberately are showing that Canada flash because they're trying to also stir up discontent amongst the Commonwealth troops with the British there. So, you know.
The tanks thing, you really see there how hard it was, these large stones, for the tanks to get over them and to get inland. They couldn't get unstuck on the beach.
Well, of course, one of the great tragedies is that an example of how it was such a poorly planned raid is there's nothing done ahead of time to actually test the beach to see if they can support the weight of these vehicles.
Which is something that does happen in Normandy,
later,
where people are taking sand samples and doing all sorts of stuff to make sure that the beach will, that it'll work. And even then, barely.
Barely. The other thing about the Dieppe raid you saw a little bit there is it's probably one of the largest aerial battles fought during the war. It's the largest battle after the Battle of Britain. Huge numbers of aircraft are fighting in the skies over Dieppe. So that's
which was also, from the point of the RAF, was another point of the battle, which is to engage the Germans in a way that will be favorable to the RAF.
Right. So didn't work out quite well. But we have the nice Germans giving out bratwursts. So
well, these guys...
I like this one here. Oh, wait. No. You need more. You're wasting away. Let me give you some more goulash.
No propaganda here at all. They took it away from him after the shot was over. You are not allowed to eat that.
Sorry. No soup for you.
And here we have, this is sort of the big finish about the noble French people and how they've been defended by the brave Germans, and that together they are defending sanity against the lunatic British and Canadians.
Yes.
It really
touches you, doesn't it?
It gets right there. Yeah. It does.
How did it turn out so wrong? But again, you can see them.
I thought Le Marseille was about to.
Well,
it's almost like Le Marseille, not quite.
One of the things I love about this footage, and I comment upon this when we do the Normandy trips, I said, when the Germans let everybody know about the defenses in France, they wanted the Allies, the people in the Allied countries, to know what they were going to face. So film footage like this was right up their alley.
Yeah, it is. I think for me, what was most impactful about this is I've seen a lot of pictures of Dieppe, and I'd never really stopped to really sit down and look at footage of Dieppe, and it was just horrifying. Absolutely. To look at all the carnage, all the bodies, all the prisoners, all the stuff that was stranded, the landing craft and the tanks and stuff just floating around, and it almost made me sick to my stomach the first time just watching it.
I think, again, I guess I don't want to say that they were the same, because nothing like that is the same, but we focus a lot on what happened on Omaha Beach and at the Verville Draw in particular, when Company A gets wiped out. Well, that happened on all four beaches at Dieppe. Those guys that landed suffered comparable casualties.
Believe me, if we'd been driven back at Omaha, there'd be all sorts of footage of Company A and their boats and the bodies and the whole thing, and it would be equally horrible. But because that didn't happen, the footage is a little more sanitized for consumption by the American public. So anyway, that's our first edition
crack at this, but we hope to I hope you enjoy it, and we'd like to kind of get your thoughts about it. And
please give us your feedback.
We hope to develop it some more, get into a little bit more detail, and
maybe we also may invite some guests on to comment on the footage with us, and if you have suggestions for stuff that we should take a look at with This Way. In our History Happy Hour screening room, let us know, and we'll try to do that.
And also let us know what you think about Rick's vest. I think it's very fetching.
And Chris's tie, which I wonder if I will ever see again.
Not until next Christmas, when I get another Christmas present.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us
guys.
here on History Happy Hours, a little History Happy Hour extra. We appreciate your being here.
Take care, bro.